When Jay walked onto the America's Got Talent stage in 2021, no one in the audience had any idea of the unimaginable pain she carried in her heart. Her quiet steps, her lowered gaze, the slight tremble in her hands, all of it masked a tragic reality that no young woman should ever have to endure. Just a few years before this powerful moment, Jay had experienced the kind of horror that most of us only ever see in movies or read about in the headlines. Her parents, the two people she loved more than anything in the world, were murdered in front of her eyes in a brutal, senseless act of violence that tore her life apart in seconds. One day she had a family, laughter, and love, and the next she had silence, darkness, and a hole in her soul that no one could ever fill. It wasn't just the loss of her parents that changed her forever. It was the helplessness, the trauma, the scars left behind, and the constant feeling that a part of her had died that day too. And yet, despite the trauma, despite the heartbreak that could have easily broken her spirit, Jay chose something extraordinary. She chose music. She clung to it like a lifeline, a way to breathe when everything else felt suffocating. Music became her therapy, her voice, her way of surviving. And on that unforgettable night in 2021, she stood on the AGT stage, face to face with millions of viewers and the pain she'd tried so hard to carry alone. As she softly introduced herself, the judges smiled politely, unaware of the storm she was about to unleash, not with rage but with raw, soul-stirring emotion that would leave everyone in the room and watching at home speechless. She chose to sing Freya Riding's haunting ballad Lost Without You, a song that already carries heartbreak in every note, but in Jay's voice it became something else entirely. Became a eulogy. A cry. Confession. A tribute to everything she had lost and everything she was trying to rebuild. From the very first note you could feel it. This wasn't just a performance, this was a soul bleeding into a microphone. Her voice trembled, not from nerves but from memories. Every lyric hit like a wave, crashing into the hearts of the judges, the audience, and the world watching. Pain was real, the emotion raw. Tears welled up in the eyes of those listening, not just because her voice was beautiful but because it told a story. A story of a young woman who had been shattered, who had every reason to give up, but who instead chose to sing. It's rare that a talent show audition becomes something bigger than just an act, but this was one of those rare moments. Jay didn't just sing, she shared her soul. She reminded the world that grief doesn't follow a timeline, that trauma doesn't disappear with time, and that healing is messy, painful, and yet somehow still beautiful. The silence in the room after she finished was deafening. No one wanted to speak, because no one wanted to break the spell she had just cast. Even Simon Cowell, known for his cold critiques and harsh standards, looked visibly shaken. Jay had done something few contestants ever do. She made everyone feel something so real it hurt. That night, her audition went viral. People shared it not because of flashy lights or high notes, but because of truth. Because in her performance they saw themselves, their own losses, their own pain, their own attempts to keep going when it all feels impossible. Comments flooded in from people who had lost loved ones, who had survived trauma, who felt broken, and suddenly they didn't feel so alone. Jay had spoken for them. Her story resonated with millions because pain is universal. And so is hope. Because despite it all, despite the heartbreak, the tears, the nightmares, she stood there. Not just alive, but brave enough to sing. Brave enough to remember. Brave enough to be vulnerable in front of the world. And that bravery changed lives. Her story is a reminder that strength doesn't always look like smiles or perfection. Sometimes it looks like shaking hands, tear-filled eyes, a voice cracking in the middle of a song, but still going on, still showing up, still singing. Because when you've lost everything, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply survive, and then somehow find the courage to tell the world your truth. Jay didn't come to AGT for fame or attention. She came because she had something to say. Something that went far beyond music. She came to honor her parents, to give her grief a voice, to prove to herself and to the world that tragedy doesn't get the final word, that healing is possible, that even in darkness a light can still shine. And she did exactly that. Her performance is now one of the most emotional in AGT history, not because of technical perfection, but because of its undeniable authenticity. Every time someone watches her video, they aren't just seeing an audition, they're witnessing a moment of real, human truth. A moment that says, you can lose everything and still rise. You can feel lost and still find your way back. You can carry pain and still create something beautiful from it. Jay reminded us all that behind every smile is a story. Behind every quiet person is a battle you may never understand. And behind every voice is a heart, sometimes broken but still beating. So when you watch her sing Lost Without You, don't just listen, feel. Feel the ache in her voice. Feel the love she still carries for her parents. Feel the strength it took to step onto that stage. And let it remind you that no matter what you're going through, you are not alone. Jay's story is more than just a tragic past. It's a beacon for everyone who's ever suffered, who's ever cried alone, who's ever wondered if they'd make it through. Her audition isn't just about talent, it's about truth. About survival. About turning pain into power. So the next time life breaks your heart, remember Jay. Remember her voice. Remember that even in the darkest moments, you too can stand back up and maybe, just maybe, sing your way to healing. Let me know if you'd like a shorter version or to format this for a voiceover, video captioning, or YouTube description. Do you like this personality? Tools. ChatGPT can make mistakes.